Hello, and welcome to the newest episode of Borderline Podcast Disorder. I hope you had a nice weekend, and I hope you're looking forward to, you know, at least at least a couple of things this week. It's a pretty standard week for me as we speak. So there are some things going on. I think I'm not that busy in regards to shows this week, and I'm seeing my therapist later today, and that's something that I'm kind of looking forward to because I haven't managed to see her in a while, and I think we've got some catching up to do. And as I'm talking, I feel like you've heard from me far more recently than I am usually trying to, and I'm trying to be as, I guess, not concise. I don't know if it's a good word, but I'm trying to just keep it brief, just give you a couple updates, and then dive straight into the conversation that I had with Jacob Hatton. Is a very good comedian and a lovely person, and yeah, we've recorded this episode um, maybe like a month or maybe like 2 months ago almost, and it was fun. It was a great time, and I hope you enjoy it. But before we get there, um, some more updates. Well, one would be that well, I think I'm doing better sleeping wise, but I've got a lot of like aching on my back and legs, and I feel just tired all the time. So I feel like now I'm actually napping a lot more during the day than I used to. Obviously, like a while back, and I don't know. In one hand, it's I guess it's better. In the other hand, it's not because um, I just feel like I'm sitting down so much, and like I don't have the energy to, or like, no, I'm not tired enough to not to just fall asleep properly, but I am tired enough to not be able to do anything. I think I only started working out again a little bit a couple of days ago. I went on two 1 kilometer runs, so very like short runs around the house. And then I think yesterday I managed to do some skipping rope, just because I wanted to. Again, I just wanted to feel like I'm somehow getting back, but I had to take quite a few painkillers because of the pain in my lower back and my legs that just felt uh, ridiculously bad for the little amount of exercise I've done, and that's what's put me off for a while, and I feel like it's still putting me off from like today on, because I'm kind of, I want to get back into working out, but I don't really want to be dependent on painkillers. And before you say it, I'm taking loads of supplements of different kind, loads of like vitamins and minerals, and I think yeah, at the moment I'm taking maybe like one, two, maybe like four types of uh, basically like tablets or meds, no meds, supplements that are meant to help me. And I don't know. Again, in one hand, I feel like they do, but in the other hand, I don't think they work, or they don't work as well as I was hoping or expecting for it to work. But um, hey, it's okay. It's a work in progress. We'll see how the week goes. In regards to mindfulness, I've not been as consistent at meditating as much as I wanted to, which was, if you remember, was 5 minutes a day of guided meditation and at least 5 minutes a day of guided and 5 minutes of silent meditation. I feel like some days I manage to do it, some days I don't. However, I also feel like that's dependent on everything else that's going on through the day. So I'm not as angry with myself for not being able to stay, to stay on top of things. And I think it's good because I usually get, like, again, I can be my worst critic, which I think it's the case for many people. But I kind of, yeah, I don't let it basically be ultimate if I'm missing a day to then start the next one, because that's pretty much what's happened. I feel like on Saturday I've been able to do the meditation, but then yesterday on Sunday I didn't, and then today I'm kind of doing it, or like I'm planning to do it, but we'll see how it goes. I think I've done half of it. I've done 5 minutes of silent meditation, but now we just I'm still going to try and do a guided one. But yeah, we'll just see how it goes. But I also feel like you've heard enough from me, and yeah, I'll let you enjoy the episode I've recorded with Jacob, and I'll catch you later. So yeah, see you, or like you'll hear back from me near the end. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm having a good time. I'm here in this beautiful studio that you've got together.
Yeah, it looks a lot like a living room.
Yeah, it looks. I tell you what, though, it's crazy that you managed that. You really put some thought into making this studio feel like a homely living room.
Yeah, I think we're trying to get a few more sofas in here, just because
Yeah,
we don't have enough given the ratio of free space to sofas.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think you could fit at least three more. You could. I think you should have limited floor and max sofas.
I agree. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't. I feel like 'cause I know there are like some people who enjoy like sitting on the floor. I'm quite the opposite. I'd rather.
they're peasants. They're,
Yeah,
they're they're nothing. They're worms. They're nothing. You need this the firm. You need the firm but giving like the pillow beneath you. You know. I like it. I think you can if you make these tessellate, you could fit five sofas in here. I reckon at least.
this is the plan. Every week I only think about, I think, two things in my life. Like I'm gonna go like, how do I get more sofas in here,
Yeah.
and how do I get rid of the floor
Yeah.
around. I kind of just don't. I wish I could just like have the sofas be elevated
Yeah. Oh.
over nothing.
Yeah. Perfect.
Just get like a few little jets on the side and just like slowly, have it. Like, have you
Yeah.
have you ever played the like, or GTA San Andreas?
Uh, have I ever played GTA San Andreas? Listen, my friend, I I have given up multiple summers of my youth to the Grand Theft Auto series, San Andreas, Vice City, all of them, right? Sure, sure. I looking back on that as a mid-30s man, I wonder could I have done better with my childhood, but no,
No, I
no.
don't. I
I ran San Andreas's crime scene with a fucking. I was the big dog. I was the king. I love Grand Theft Auto. It's such a great game.
that's what I was gonna say. Sometimes because I used to get those like crack like password things that you would like type in. I don't know what's the
Mm.
English word for it.
Yeah, cracks.
Yeah, and
Forget it.
then there was a jetpack one. That's what I was thinking. I could just
Yeah,
make a sofa jetpack, and then just, yeah, be on. I think it's like if I were to be Aladdin, I would just
yeah.
float on a sofa all over the world.
A
Well,
crazy thing about Grand Theft Auto, especially the newer ones, is how realistic. Not the graphics as such, but how much the cities match the exact layout of the real city. And I know this because um, Grand Theft Auto 4 is in New York, and I went to New York in 2011. I was just walking down the street going, why do I know what I've never, but why do I know this? And then I just had this image of my head of me careering in this car, just running over. There's like an area of New York where a large amount of of New York. There's an area of video game New York where they, for some reason, populate it entirely with Hasidic Jews, right? And I just in the kind of thing, and I just had this image of me in a car just smashing through these guys doing this massacre, and in my head I was like, oh my god, this is that street where you committed that horrible hate crime.
Is that yeah? Because I also because I know, for example, there was the
Hey, let's do a disclaimer here for the podcast: is that I did not do that for religious hatred reasons. It was just they just
example.
happened to be the characters that were in the way of my car, and I wanted to get to the other end of the street, and so they had to die. It is what it is, right?
yeah, it's a game. You
Yeah.
gotta play the game.
Yeah,
Um, that's okay, but I mean, what I was going to say is that I know, although I genuinely don't like him very much. The ex Tottenham Spurs goalkeeper Hugo Lloris
yeah.
signed for Los Angeles FC, and he was saying that he's very excited to live in a city because he knows it so well already from all his time playing GTA.
That's funny.
And yeah, it's funny, but also I was
Yeah.
like, that's I don't know. In one hand, it's scary. Not scary, but I think it's actually quite good. You know, I think they should do one with. Oh my god! Like actually, no. I remember in Romania, we used to have we used to download packs to games. You know, and then we used to have a version where you'd have Romanian cars and Romanian music on the radio in GTA Vice City.
Sounds
And
fucking horrendous.
it
It's
was
like
so
little box things that they kind of.
the thing is, because then you think about it, you're like, you know, that, again, at the time, I was like, that's cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. You know, you drive a Romanian Dacia,
Yeah,
you know, in Los Angeles.
I want. I want one with a Morris Minor. Do you know them? The British three-wheeled cars.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They're
I want
Mr.
one of
Bean.
those. Just
Imagine having an English version of it.
yeah.
You want- Just
There was a Grand Theft Auto London years and years ago.
no way.
Yeah, it was in the 90s when it was a it was like a sort of 2D game.
Oh.
GTA London. They should bring it back. Bring it back, guys.
Yeah, and you have like people on like e-bikes just
Yeah.
running the crime.
This is it. This is it. I think that I think it would be really good, and I think it would be really good because if they'd made it maybe 10 years ago, I think it would be a horrible game. But I think now people are more aware of specific London stuff that would go in the game. Like I think that people would watch it because you know how Top Boy is really popular in America.
Yes.
So I think that they might. I think that if they'd made it 10 years ago, no one would take it seriously, and they'd kind of fill it with kind of cartoon characters. But I think now
Interesting.
people would. I think now you could do it, and you know they could fill it with like Albanian drug mules and like guys from just and like you'd start maybe on your little bike, yeah, just like trying to nick phones and stuff, and you'd kind of just keep. Do you know what I mean? Like you definitely.
Yeah, it's like that's how you start. Like your first mission, is like in San Andreas, where it's like, oh, is it Compton? It's like, oh no, is it Saint Grove, or what was the name of the court that he used to?
We'll look it up. We'll say,
Yeah,
edit
and it was
the
like
back end and we'll sound smart.
the place, the place where it all started, the place I come from.
Yeah.
And just have like this guy just for like first mission, pick up this bike, get on the bike, collect 10 phones.
Swipe 10 phones.
But okay, now we've also one of the things I wanted to touch on before we move on from the GTA topic is that I love the fact that I don't know if you've noticed, but if you've seen, but Rockstar have pledged, I think Rockstar, or because they might have sold on something else, I don't know. Anyway, the company that's basically releasing the next GTA, they have made a pledge to make the characters more inclusive, and
I don't think it was a non-inclusive game. I think they included all variety of scum, and
but I love the fact that they had to go like, hey, look, we gotta, like you obviously have Disney, you have Marvel, they're trying to diversify their like superheroes, but then they were like, hey, look, we need criminals from all all corners and from all everyone is welcome to be a criminal.
Yeah, listen. You know, it doesn't matter. It's not about where you came from. It's about where you're going. You know, jail, death or jail, and death, jail, millionaire,
and
that's
then
it.
revive.
Yeah, revive. It would be fun. I think it would be really funny if they just like had the police, but like if you're like your like character's non-white and you just do one mugging, they just go immediate 5-star. They're like, so, like, you know what I mean? They just if you turn up and you just they think because I've well they kind of did that because Neeks from Neeks the Russian one, it was just like he. The police were always kind of dicks to him. I felt, you know, whereas like I always felt they gave that. Who's that rich LA guy? I always felt that they gave him more respect. But
I can't remember the name, but I know. Yeah. Yeah. So I very much agree with you on that. I feel like it's, but again, it's good that they acknowledged it, and also I feel like they.
Yeah.
I was gonna say because I think in America do they still do like random checks?
They must.
And I was thinking, like, you know, you could just like have a mission where you just fail even beforehand because you might be a different color but white.
Yeah.
They are like, you know, you're going on the way to commit the crime to get your like reward,
Mm.
but on the way you get arrested because you look suspicious, and then that's the game. And
Rightly so. Rightly so, because you were doing crime. That's the, you know, like I just on that level.
And then you have like what the NYPD go like, hey, we have the stats here,
Yeah,
which show that
Oh,
we stopped
God.
a lot of crime on the internet. But now coming back to you,
Yeah.
you were saying, you know, you grew up playing GTA, but then actually, where'd you grow up? Are you from London originally?
I'm from London. Yeah.
Which part?
Well, this is one. I'm from London suburbs. You know, so zone 5, 6. I grew up in Bromley.
Okay, so very close.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's it was fine. Bromley is one of the most boring towns to exist, and it's incredibly boring, and then it's also touching distance from one of the most exciting cities in the world. And I actually think when I was growing up, because of that, it felt even more boring as a result, because it just, you know, because people within a couple of miles of you were in your head as a teenager living very exciting lives, whereas you were just kind of, there's nothing to do. Like, it's not just the place itself. It's got a big the place is fine. You know, it's got a mall, it's got a cinema.
Yeah. You got an Apple store?
Yeah, they do now, yeah. But the place but it's the kind of people who live there are very Kent people.
You have to do. I have no idea.
Okay, well, yeah, sorry, yeah. But what I mean by that is
very lucky, I guess.
Yeah, they're very market town kind of. They're not even though they technically live in a city, they're definitely town people, and I think there's a real difference. And they, you know, if any fucking town people are on this podcast going, oh, what are you saying about us? I'm saying you're cunts, right? I hate you. I hate everything about you. That's what I'm saying. But no, you're
still, please.
Some of you know, please listen, man. We're going to talk about mental health and stuff, and you know, I hope you have good.
You'll see why.
I hope you have good lives. But I think you know, it's quite well off, but not well off in like an urban liberal way, you know. So like you know, not many people there are professional artists, for example, but there will be a lot of people who have kind of there will be a lot of people who have big houses with two car garages, and they'll have like a Land Rover, and they'll have a personalized number plate that says like "Babe" or something. Nice. You know, it's just very just willful Philistine, like golf club Philistines. You know,
yeah.
But and also, it's. I mean, it was fine. You know, it's a fine place to grow up. You can get to London pretty easily, and it's. I didn't have a. We were not. No one believes me because of how I come across, but we were not financially well off at all. but there was no. It's not. It was a very low crime area. You know, there's no. So any of the sort of stresses that you might get in the city, I wasn't really exposed to. You know,
That's nice. And do you have any siblings?
yeah, I've got two, a brother and a sister. They're both younger than me. They're both cunts. No, they're fine. You know, they're fine. They're my sister lives in Berlin doing whatever she does there, and
Very nice.
my brother is back here. He was living in Barcelona for a long time.
Have you lived overseas?
No, you know what? What's mad is that when I was younger, all I ever wanted to do was get out. I just wanted to get out. I didn't want to live in Bromley anymore. I really didn't like it. And then I went to university, and then the financial crisis hit. Came home, and I've just been in London ever since. And I've never really, you know, but I've not. It's not even happened. I actually live about a mile. I live in Lewisham, which is like a mile and a half down the road from my mum, and like I didn't even do it on purpose. I just it was just an affordable place, and I was like, oh well, you know. And now I'm just basically back where I started. Yeah, but it wasn't. And yeah, my whole childhood was like, I want to get out, and now I'm like, well, it's quite nice to have mum down the road, you know. So
I think that's. It's funny because I always I think in Romania, or like as a kid, I had this dream, not even dream, but I think when I was because I left quite early, but even when I was like 10 or 11, you know, all I could think of was, oh, I want to, you know, live like the American dream. I want to, you know, again, because America was like the country that was like most like seen on TV, and I was like, this is so cool. I want to do this. I want to get out of here, and I want to go to this like very cool place where they have, you know, everything, you know, like you can go to a shop and buy everything you want, sort of stuff. And then I got older, and I remember like, even 2 years ago I had the option, or like the almost opportunity to either go to America or move from Manchester to London, and I went like, it's too far. I was like, I can't. I don't have the energy.
Well, you live in London now, you know.
Yeah, I guess it's in America of some sort.
I live right where I live in Catford, which is a very unfashionable part of London. I have a big Tesco, a Lidl, and an Aldi within a 4-minute walk of my house. And what I'll say to you all is that's living. You know, if you were to tell like my great grandfather dredging himself out of the fucking peat bogs of the Midlands, or the fens even of the Midlands, just, you know, shoveling shit all day, whatever they did, these peasants did all day. You know what I mean? And like, I was just gonna, if you brought him to my life, just plucked him out of death and showed him the availability of cereal that I have within a 4-minute walk of my house, he would die a second time, you know.
Like, hey, look, you know, we have those like club card things, you know?
Yeah, but listen,
you get points on every purchase. How?
I think I would show him around, and I'd take him back to the flat and warm up a Rustler's burger in front of his face. You know, just.
Oh my God, the Rustler! I remember arriving to England and seeing them in the shop, and I was like, £1 burgers, this is amazing. And then
and you were like, that's why communism lost.
Yeah, you could not get those on
Fuck you, Taito.
No, you know, actually he was a fascist.
Oh well,
Yeah.
you listen.
But fair enough, you know, I'd rather.
He wasn't he? I'm not up on my.
No, that's fine. I was going to say
dictators, but
I'm very glad, you know, because I'm my upstairs neighbor. They are members of the Communist Party.
Oh,
and the way I found out is because we had a leak in the bathroom coming from them, and I went like I had to like obviously knock on the door and be like, hey guys, you know, can you like do you have someone coming to have it checked? And then I just saw they had like this massive sign on the wall in their living room, and which said join us in our socialist movement.
yeah.
And then as I was like chatting with them a bit more, growing up in, although I do not like
They consider putting that
communism.
sign outside because that would probably be, I think, a better.
That's
you know,
yeah, a bigger reach,
really
bigger
wider reach. But
bigger.
yeah,
But then I started like chit chatting with them, and I was like, "Oh, that's." Again, I was just trying to be friendly. But I was like, "Oh, this poster like looks, really nice." And they were like, "Oh yeah, yeah, we are. Are you like interested in joining? Because we are like members of the communist like union for like London or whatever." And I was like,
damn.
"No,
No, that was
thanks."
real.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, one's Irish, one's American. And I feel bad for Ireland and America equally.
Yeah.
It took us 70 years to get rid of our communist party, but it looks like it's picked up some other places. Anyways, that's what I was saying though. Now it's just I find it fascinating. Like sometimes
Yeah.
I just play, the American anthem and I just go like full blast on the home pods.
It's we're recording this on a Sunday. It's American Football Day, which we both like. Just ran that volume up at the
Like-
start. Land of the free.
I'm like, hey, look how much stuff you can get for free.
Rustler's Burgers.
But when did you start doing comedy?
Oh, years ago, man. I've actually been doing it for an embarrassingly long time for someone who hasn't either given up or is famous. I think I've been doing comedy stand up for about 10 years. Now, what I will say is that I didn't do it seriously for the first few years of it. I
Fair.
kind of didn't do. It's not like I started and then just started gigging. I kind of did like. I was in like an improv group.
Okay.
We were bad. We were called the Murderettes. I don't know why, because that implies that it's a group of women, and we were not. And we were. We did. I got my first 1-star review with them 10 years ago.
No way.
And the review, I remember it. We did a show in the Brighton Comedia, and the show started, and the review started for tonight's open, like air quotes, entertainment. They started. They they said for anyone who likes a lot of paedophile and dick jokes and maybe quite a few laughs, this is probably the show for you. But if you're looking for something a little bit more subtle, then move along. And I love it. But yeah, so I did improv, and I wrote sketches and things like that. But then, and I did stand up like occasionally,
Okay.
because I'm just quite disorganized and I'm quite bad. I actually really want to write sketches and make them with people and make things with friends. I'm just quite disorganized, and so I'm not good at.
Fair.
And it takes a lot to put these things together. Whereas stand up is very, for a disorganized mind, I think stand up is very regimented. You can just book your gigs in, and then they're in the diary, and you have to do them. So you just kind of write, and you can write in very small intervals and just go and make it happen. And then, whereas I think if left to my own devices, I find it quite hard to get people together and do things. So, about 10 years. And then I started taking it a lot more seriously. Probably a few years in, where I just got the bug a bit more and stuff. And concentrated more on stand up rather than other kinds of writing. I used to be very weird. I did a lot of weird things. That was my.
How do you mean, like comedy weird?
Yeah, I used to do very I used to do this bit where I'd pretend that I was the bird from Angry Birds that had been like stuffed full of bread and like had his wings clipped so he couldn't fly, and his life was being kind of like forced to just be thrown around for people's entertainment and stuff. What else did I used to do? I used to do a bit where I'd like. Yeah, I think maybe I should go back to this. This is way better. I used to read this letter from my dog that had like, and then the conceit was that, you know how like people send you Christmas cards, but they've like, got their dog to sign it. I'm like, well, why have dogs learned to write and now they just can only sign Christmas cards? But then I used to pretend that I'd like found this suicide note from my dog, and I'd read it and be like, get really upset about it. It was very odd. I used to do a lot of really odd stuff. I do sometimes wonder whether I've kind of sullied my name with a lot of London comedy clubs because they kind of remember me from when I used to just do kind of mad things instead of now when I do, I guess, much more. I think I don't do quite straight. I don't think I do like entirely straightforward observational stuff, but I'm a lot more of a stand-up now, and I think a lot of clubs probably remember that I was bad. To be not bad, but mad and weird, and they kind of think that I'm like an alternative act, but I'm not.
But how did you get around it? Like, were you always like why? Yeah, like how did you even get into the improv club? Was it because you were again like were you like did you grow up like watching a lot of comedy?
Yeah. I loved comedy growing up.
Did you always kind of thought about giving it a try, or was it just like a spontaneous thing?
No, I have always liked writing,
Right.
whether that's fiction or like scripts or something, and I've always wanted to write, and I have, which is my big thing. I wrote my first book, such as it is, at the age of 4. It was
What
called,
about?
It was called Mr. Max the Astronaut. I was about this astronaut called Max, right? And it's fucking. To be honest with you, I think it holds up. I was 4 years old and I wrote this book, and it's Mr. Max the Astronaut has a rocket, and he's supposed to go to the moon and meet his friend Alex, who's also an astronaut, and his other friend called the Moon Dragon, which is a dragon that lives on the moon. And then he showed up, and fucking Alex wasn't there because he'd been captured by some witch called Miss Cacklechops, which, again, I'll tell you this for free, for a 4-year-old, that is a fucking great character name to have come up with. Mrs. Cacklechops, the witch. And then he had to rescue his mate with the help of a red giant, the moon dragon, and the stars. And then when he rescued him, then they all go to the science museum. And that's the book. I think it's one of the greatest works of literature ever produced by a 4-year-old. So,
Wait, did you write it as a 4-year-old, or
yeah, I wrote it. Yeah,
how did you know how to write? Wait, am I?
I was smart. I'm not smart now. I've had way too much drink and drugs to not be smart. But I was a smart child.
What, and you wrote it for?
Yeah, it wasn't a long book. It was like 20 pages.
No, that's fine. I didn't know how to write a word.
Yeah, I was a bloody smart child, and I just doused that.
What happened?
Right. Yeah. I was very insecure as a teenager, and then I just doused my brain with booze and drugs and stuff in my 20s. And I think, but yeah, I think I'm still relatively smart now. But I was a very smart child. Like, I'd read like by the time I was 5, I'd read like I was reading like the Lord of the Rings and stuff. I could read like adult books when I was like 6.
I think my biggest achievement at 6 was that my parents didn't know what Red Bull was, so they would let me go and buy a Red Bull.
That's honestly better. That's way better, man. You were living the dream. Like, imagine what that would do to a 6-year-old. You must have been fucking out of your tree, my friend.
Oh my god, it was. I can't remember much.
Back when you were 6, man, if you eat like blue Smarties, you go nuts. You know. My brother used to be banned from eating them, like eating blue Smarties, because he'd go fucking high on this little sugar out there. I guess whatever the preservative in them would just bend them absolutely off the tree.
You know, one of the best thing that's like one of my favorite memories is that I remember when we joined the European Union, as in like Romania joined the European Union, and we used to have so many sweets and so many like snacks, and then as soon as we joined the European Union for like 3 months, you couldn't find any anymore, because I think everything that was in those was like against the law by the European regulation.
Like all these old like packets of fucking like grub nuts and oil, like sweetened oil that had got you through the dark fucking dictatorship years. And you're like, your parents are looking at them going, bring them back. You know what I mean? Like, bring back communism. It's like, we can fucking like, you disappear a few of my villages and camps if you will, but bring me back my grub nuts. Bring me back my fucking petrol sweets.
Bro, honestly, like, and then I remember a few months later, they all come back in like new packages or, like slightly different logos, like, rebranded, but they tasted nothing like I can't explain what it tasted like, but I remember that then after 2008,
Mm.
eating those like saying like getting a bag of crisps and started eating on it, it didn't taste the same, and I was
Oh,
like I
man.
was heartbroken.
That's brutal. That's so any Scottish listeners will appreciate this story from you, because like they'll remember the great Iron Brew shift. Like a few years ago, Iron Brew used to taste. I can't even really describe what it tastes like, because it's such a man-made. There's no flavor like that in nature. It's not, it's this bright orange kind of thing that is every sip you take of it, you know that Nietzsche was right and we as a species have killed gods. You know what I mean? Like it was, but it was just this beautiful, sweet kind of thing that we used to drink. And then, yes, Scottish people will tell you that there was some regulation that they changed, and they were like, yeah, we just can't make it like this anymore because it's now deemed unsafe or too unhealthy. So they changed the recipe and stuff, and it's just a shadow of what it once was. I can't describe exactly what's different because, again, the flavor was too artificial to fully describe it. But it was, you just.
We used to have a version of it. I think actually in Ukraine there used to be a version of Iron Brew, but I just remember tasting like Iron Brew when I got it.
The Iron Curtain Brew.
I just that's very good. Yeah. And I just remembered. And I always wonder. I'm like, did they know that those were unhealthy and borderline illegal? And then they were like, okay, we have no choice now. Or
were they just trying to like?
I always just
we're
wonder.
Europeans now. We gotta start acting like it.
Yeah, I just wonder if like people who are, I don't know, like shifting, popcorn in the country, they were like, oh, we don't worry about what's inside, just take it.
Russia needs to start doing like campaigns, like do a sort of reverse Maiden where like all these like former Easter, but like you can get your old fucking sweets back.
Like, hey, join us. We are the good guys.
Get rid of NATO and you can bring back the fucking Iron Brew.
Do you remember when Kit Kats tasted good?
Yeah. Remember, comrade, Kit Kats. Remember Kit Kat? When it tasted like joy and petrol.
Oh God, man. I think this is another thing as well. Like in a few times, do you have those like petrol gaps in the like petrol pumps things in the UK where you'd go past the place and it just stinks like petrol?
I'm sure we did in the past,
Because we used to have that as well growing up, and you just like go all of a sudden and you're like, oh, you can't smoke here. But funnily enough, there wasn't no smoke sign. You kind of just had to, you have like a sniff test almost,
you know what? I think when did you first come to the UK?
2013.
Okay, right. So yeah, people used to smoke here, man. Like we have, I think that's one of the key differences between the UK and like continental Europe that people don't appreciate is how little people smoke cigarettes here. But people used to fucking light up all through the 90s and noughties when I was a kid. Like people fucking were lighting up constantly. So that was definitely true. People were just like out there smoking. The smoking ban in 2005, I think, was the beginning of the end, where they stopped people, because people used to just go into pubs and smoke all the time, and pubs and clubs, and I think we did a really good job of kicking out of our society. To be honest with you, it's one of those things where it's like, I want to be a libertarian, about stuff. I want to be like the government, but actually they ran an incredibly well resource public health campaign and banned it from like places you might want to have them, and it works. People just don't smoke anymore. So
funnily enough, though, you say this, but as the thing is, because you were talking about like battling insecurities as a like a teenager, like an early like a young adult, and I can say so did I when I was I had the drinking and gambling addiction at 14, and actually the fact that
you got gambling at 14.
Yeah, bro, it was amazing. Again, like looking back at it, again, I'm saying it was amazing. But
you're so British, man. You're from Romania, but you're a gambler. You're just fucking getting the bookies, getting an accumulator on.
It was no. The thing is that it used to be actually funny enough. It was very. I think it was the most English thing I did because it was a lot of dog races.
Oh, yes, yes. You're so. But I think like I've got a. I would make a sort of semi point about this. Is that I think that in the '90s, right, when we were you're talking about when like Romania joined the EU, right?
2008, yes.
Yeah, 2008. So, and in the '90s and noughties, as more Eastern European countries joined the EU, like the kind of anti-migration rhetoric, a lot of it was about Eastern Europeans here, like Polish people at first, and then it was like, like whatever country was next, like Bulgaria or
Yeah.
Romania, whatever. Who, whenever they joined, everyone was just like, oh, they're gonna fucking
Come here.
come here, aren't they? And they did, but I no. But one thing I always think whenever I've been to I've been to a few Eastern European countries, and I've been to like they're all kind of very different to each other, but they're way more like British, like Eastern European people as just a big rule are way more. And again, I understand that the countries are very different to each other, but they're way more like British people than fucking French people are. They just are. Like I just think.
Yeah, I can
I
see
think
that.
they are.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd feel like France is like right there, and we just sort of culturally don't have a huge amount in common with them. Whereas I think we absolutely do with like Polish people.
True.
We love fucking we love like cheese, bread, like hard booze, and like we're all just like degenerate gamblers, and just you know what I mean. Like we're all just like sitting there fucking doing accumulators. We've all got like a sour sense of humor and a sort of shit, whatever. But it's my shit.
Yeah, this is one of the things I find fascinating. Where, especially I think with the humor wise,
Yeah,
when we have this thing in Romania, like if you're Romanian, you can complain. I can complain about Romania, but if
Yeah.
someone else tells me that something's wrong with Romania,
yeah, you're
I
like
get this like self defense, just
yeah.
naturally on. And I kind of feel it with like English people, where sometimes I say something and they'll be like, "Hey, you can't say this."
I get it though, man. I understand. The thing is, I understand that it's weird to navigate when you're a foreigner because you want to fit in, right? And so you want to fit in, and then you
Yeah.
join in with English people, and English people just sitting there going, "This place is shit. It's gone to the fucking dogs. Nothing works. Everything's bad." And you're like, "Yeah, you know what? Actually, this does kind of suck." And they're like, "Do you know what, mate? Why don't you fucking? If you don't like it, mate, you know where the fucking door is." And but the thing is, on the other side, I do kind of get it because I think that we feel that it's kind of like this country. Everyone knows it sort of sucks, right? And like. Well, it's probably one of the
Which
best.
country
Yeah,
doesn't, though? That's the thing.
yeah, exactly.
Like, I always
It's probably objectively one of the best places to live in the world. But like we love a moan, and we just see. I think we see the country as a whole as our like drunk uncle. You know what I mean? Like if I'm allowed to be like that guy is drunk, man.
Yeah.
if you, I'm like, sorry, you talking about my family? Like,
no. But you see, this is the kind of thing where I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. And what to say? Yeah, the drinking and the gambling. I was doing like so much, and then I can't remember what the point was, by the way, of this.
Yeah, I think we got sidetracked.
We got sidetracked. I was going to
We'll
actually
do
start
that.
going like, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
this is like like the mental health side of things.
Yeah.
How you try to like control these addictions. But yeah, pretty much. I think the point was that quite similarly, I was filled with like all these insecurities. A lot of shit was going on at home, and
Yeah.
and all I could find was like, because basically bookies would like be open from like, weirdly enough, like 8 in the morning until like 10 in the evening, and then I would just like sit in throughout the day. I used to get those. Like, I had a doctor that used to give me like fake fit notes, and I used to just go and I remember once I had a fit note because I ripped my jeans and I had to go and buy jeans, and the doctor gave me
You sound like you were 40 years old at the age of 12, man. You sound like you lived a fucking life just sitting in the bookie, just complaining about your divorce,
I kind
I gotta-
of I had a very shit relationship as well, again as a teenager.
Yeah.
Again, as much of a relationship as you can have as a 14-year-old. But yeah, I kind of did. I feel like, oh yeah, the point was that, you were saying about how, you're obviously like, you're a smart kid and then everything is kind of like kicked off. I feel like with me as well, I kind of, again, although I didn't read at 4, I did well for myself in school until probably like high
Mhm.
school years. And that's after I started drinking and
Yeah.
abusing stuff. And I was like, oh, and I feel like I wouldn't say it went down, but I just feel like it just stayed there.
I'll tell you what, right? I don't want to make out that I had like a major problem with anything. So I don't think I do. But what I will say is that yes, I used to be very insecure. And so I just kind of stopped pushing for things like academic success and things like that. And I just kind of
Interesting.
I was just mad, a really insecure guy. Like I went to a school with like other I went to a grammar school, which is like you have to pass a test to get in and you have
Oh,
to
wow.
be very like, so everyone there was smart. And I actually think that one thing is that I found tough was that as soon as I went, basically when I was a really little, I knew I was smarter than most of the kids in my year, but and I didn't really, obviously kids will pick on you for being smart or whatever, but it doesn't really matter because you still got that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You might not be good at like football, you might not be good, but I knew that I was good at that, right? And I was like, great, that's my thing. And then I went to this fucking school where like everyone was smart and also they were good at sports and stuff as well. I was like, oh fuck you,
No way.
But I think I was pretty insecure about that stuff. I think that, if you're trying to think about maybe why I'm attracted to something like comedy, yeah, definitely things that I definitely felt that when I was a kid, I definitely felt that I wasn't like um I never quite knew. I'm maybe not like there's. I maybe don't have a huge amount of social intelligence. I didn't really know necessarily. Like I was always trying to fit in and make jokes and stuff, but like it just wouldn't. It just wouldn't be right. It's like when you do like a gong show, right, and
Yeah.
like you're just a bit off, right? And you go and do, and you go on, and there's just silence, and then everyone just fucking cards you off.
Yeah.
I felt that trying to socialize when I was a young teenager, I felt a bit like that. Like I'd make what I thought was a joke, and then everyone would just be like, "What? What are you talking about?"
Like, get out.
Yeah,
That's
get
it.
out.
Time's up.
Yeah, and then there was I don't know why, man, but I was on stage, and there were cards, like,
Like, hey, I thought you're my friends.
yeah. I wasn't sporty either. I'm dyspraxic, which makes it which I actually only found out as an adult, but
No
like
way.
my coordination is absolutely shot, so I'm not very.
But then, how did you only find out as an adult? Because I know you were saying that you played rugby at school, right?
No.
No, as in.
No. The school.
Oh, the school had
The
rugby.
school-
Okay, sorry.
Also, what
I-
we're referencing here is a discussion we had pre the podcast about sports.
Oh yeah, actually, it was pre.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I meant
No. I was bad at sports. Like
Right, right.
the school played, and you had like games lesson. You had to
Yeah,
play
yeah,
like
yeah.
every Wednesday. You had
Yeah.
to play, but I can do anything that involves just like I can do anything that's like fitness based. Right, like I can run, I can do like
Okay.
cross country,
Yeah.
I can run long distance, things like that. But like,
Showing off, but okay.
yeah, well, just got to get my digs in, but I can't really do anything that requires like fine motor skills. It's not that I can't do it; I'm just very bad at it, and I will improve slowly. But like the amount of effort I have to
Yeah.
put in, it really drains me. Like, there's a comedian's five-a-side football game, which I occasionally play in. I haven't, but I am comfortably the worst player by such a country mile that it's not even a like. But I like a run around, and it's fine to play. It's actually really nice playing again as an adult because your social standing in life is not attached to the fucking how well you are good you are at football.
True.
You can just play when you're a fucking kid. If you're bad at football, you can fuck off. Basically, that was how it was. It is what it is, right? But like I think so. As a result, I think I was always trying to. I will always try and find different routes to doing things. I was never really interested in becoming like a lawyer and doing the routes that everyone else did. And so I guess things like comedy for me were like a way. Oh, this is getting lame. Things like comedy for me were like a what, but it is like I like creative stuff and I like writing and I wanted to I guess comedy was this thing I sort of found in my like mid to late 20s as a way to is the sort of thing, the creative outlet that I like the most, as a way of kind of just getting out there and creating stuff.
Oh, so you wasn't because you were talking about how you went into doing improv. You kind of what did you like just look up places to do comedy at, or were
Yeah,
you
I went
chatting with someone?
because the thing is that stand up was probably not the thing I wanted to do immediately, because I grew up really liking like a lot of. I grew up in like what I would say is like the golden age of British sitcoms and stuff. So like
Okay.
like Peep Show, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and like all these kind of crazy creative things
Yeah.
and sketch shows as well. They used to be back in my day, there used to be sketch shows on TV and stuff, and like I loved like the Mitchell and Webb sound and look and things like that, and I used to listen to all the Radio 4 sketch shows. So I really wanted to do that, but I arrived at comedy at the exact same time that whole world's plug was just being fucking pulled. It's just like I have friends who and acquaintances in comedy who've done sort of sketch things, but there's no future in it really at the moment, and
It's pretty hard. Then
and it hasn't been for like a decade. So I think, I think that's why when I started doing stand up, I was really just trying to make like almost like one man sketches. I used to do this like I think my first ever opening joke was I'd just be like. I'd just yell at people. I'd be like, oh, people used to fucking say to me, oh, Jacob, my surname's Jacob my name's Jacob Hatton, right? And I'd be like, people used to just come up to me as a kid and they'd scream, take your clothes off, man, strip now, strip, take your clothes off, screaming. I just run around the room like yelling at people, strip, take your clothes off. And then I'd stop and go, but you can leave your hat on. And then like little, it sounds way funny. I tell you what, it sounds way funnier to relate than it actually was in person. I think that's I wonder whether any of it was actually pretty good. I just wasn't a good enough performer then to really carry it. Maybe some of it was. Maybe I'll try it again. We'll see. But,
I think bringing one's personality in comedy, and it's beautiful, and that was good.
yeah.
Again, I haven't seen it at the show, but
I guess maybe I think what I used to just yell at people a lot, and I think I need to restrain that. I'm quite large, I'm quite
apparently
large.
Larry David used to do that as well.
Yeah, but I think I'm quite a large person. I think I move quite suddenly, so I think people probably. You don't want to. I think maybe if I came on and just walked and did like a line where I'm just like, my name's Jacob Hatton. I don't wear hats. And just start that way. I don't know.
He was better with the shouting.
Yeah,
Take your
your clothes off.
but you can't give that.
People used to say I'm Jacob Hatton. People used to yell at me, scream, "Take your clothes off, Jacob. Take them off." But you can leave your hat on. And ever since then, I've refused to wear a hat as an act of pride and rebellion.
Did you actually?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't wear hats because I don't have the head shape for them. I've
Oh
got lots of
man,
hair, and I don't have a. If you have like a fucking big jawline, man, you got to wear a hat. You know what I mean? Like if you're square, fucking buzz cut or hat. That's your that. If you got a square head, that's what you should do. But if you're like me, facial hair and long hair, you got to.
I'm so jealous sometimes because I feel like I want to wear a hat, but it's so hard to find a good looking, like a hat that looks good on me. Because I buy something and I'm like, oh, this is gonna look great, and then I put it on and I just look like an egg.
Yeah, if I wear a hat, my face looks like it's melting. It's just kind of a. It's just, I just have an edgeless face, so I don't really have. And even if I'm like, even if I'm really in shape and I'm doing tons of cardio and stuff, I think I'm just like one of these people where it's sort of combination of my bone structure and also just how like I think my face is like the most has like fat deposits that different people have like bits of their body where they just kind of a lot of people are like, fuck, I've got this weird fat bit, like I have quite like I've got a lot of flesh in my cheeks, which is, even though I'm quite a thin guy, and I think what it is that it's like I'd have to just be emaciated for you to be able to actually not look kind of chubby and well fed, so I just if I wear a hat, man, I fucking just look like a hamster, with a stick body attached. It's very weird. It's not a.
It's not a look you want to go for, which is fair enough.
No,
but well, now we're. I was going to ask you this thing about like how you obviously you started doing you're talking about like doing comedy for
Mm.
about 10 years, but obviously you took it seriously a couple of years in. But then you were talking about how you had this plan of, oh, I'm gonna grow up and leave London. You graduate university,
Yeah.
and then there is a
There's a
economic
recession. I just came home. Yeah.
Then we were talking about something else where you were like, oh, when like it's almost like, oh, your time's up, then this like friggin' something goes wrong, and now look, for example, you're doing comedy, everything is going great, and then the lockdown
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was horrible, man. I hated it. Like, I know there's some people that will tell you that. I mean, and I had a pretty good, by most standards, I had a pretty good lockdown. I was with my, I got married like a month before lockdown started. It's just me and my wife. We have, by most standards, I think we had a pretty good, and I'm not too young. I think that was helpful in lockdown. Like, I was 30 in lockdown, right? And that was fine because I would have hated lockdown if I was like 22. I was really good. I was pretty good as well. We obeyed most of the rules, But I can't tell you that 23. If I was 23 and lived in like a shared house with the fucking boys, I can't even begin to. We wouldn't have, There's no way we'd have like stuck to those rules. Whereas I think we had a fine time. It was boring. It was really boring. I watched a lot of television. I hated it all. I don't like TV much anyway. I watched a lot of TV. It made me incredibly depressed, but and I tried very hard to keep my creative stuff alive. I wrote like short stories, things like that. I could never get into like the online gigs that people did, and I never really got into making online content either because I kind of hate most of it. So I was never creatively enthused by it. I had a podcast. A lot of us had a podcast. But yeah, I really found it very tough. And I've actually found it pretty tough since, like I don't think that the comedy scene has not come back in the way that it was pre-lockdown. It was 100% better then. There's, the gigs a lot of the gigs are back, obviously. I think it really stalled my momentum as a performer. I think most of the gigs that I get now, I could have got. Bear in mind, lockdown was now, 4 years ago? I think most of the gigs I get now, I could have got then. I don't think I've really... maybe this is a bit, maybe I shouldn't even be saying that publicly because it's one of the, you know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where...
man, it's your story.
It's one of those things where it's like your brand is, you got to be very... these days, so much is about what you're putting out there and your brand and stuff. But like, I think that it's become... a sort of combination of that, and so prior to this podcast, we were talking about the cost of living and things like that, and it's taken another step. Like, it was always hard, what I mean? Like, it was always hard to put on shows at the fringe festivals. It was always hard to travel around a lot for minimal money, and what I'm finding is that you need the increasingly large amounts of money just to get by, and because of that, it's harder to. What you have to do to get that money is just increasingly more all-consuming. So it's harder to just have like just a job you don't give a shit about, and just do it, collect your money, and go and work. Because that's what I did for most of my 20s. I had jobs I really didn't care about, but I'd do them, collect my money,
and then do whatever you actually like. And
I would be good enough to not get fired, but just. You know what I mean? Like, every now and again, my manager would be like, we're thinking about your performance and stuff. And I'd sort of rack it up just for like, I'd consciously ramp it up a bit just to like get out of there. I always thought I never want to be, I would be very strategic. I never wanted to be bad at the job, but I never wanted to be like that good, but I never wanted to be bad that but whoever was managing would be thinking about me at any one time. You know what I mean? You like, just want to be one of the fucking guys that just got in, did the things, and left. Now, the problem with that actually is, as a strategy, is what I've learned now that I'm a bit older, is that if you are one of those guys, you're actually in the top 5% of any one company. Like, it's so easy. If in most jobs, most people just fuck around constantly or are just like quite incompetent. And like, if you can just do the job, you're already better than most people.
I don't... the thing is, and I was going to say to what something that you were talking about earlier, on like, oh, you have to like keep the brand. I don't
Mm.
necessarily think that's true, or I don't think that that's going to go on for a long time personally,
Mm.
just because I feel like we kind of grew up through this time where everyone was like, oh, look at like this, like best part of my life
Yeah,
is on, or
yeah.
like, but then the thing is, by now most people know that this is bullshit. Most people know that
Yeah.
this is it again, it's just a side of it. And I
Yeah.
actually feel like sometimes, because now I remember when I was a teenager, or like I remember when I was like in my early 20s, I would see someone going on like holidays like every 2 weeks or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, it would be envy, I guess, or like jealousy.
Yes.
While now is just kind of like I just don't. I'm like, just I genuinely. Sometimes I feel like just post something shitty that's happened to you, because then
Just tell me your fucking cat's sick or something. Do you know what I mean? Just
yeah,
like, hey, listen.
just in the respect of like this just feels unnatural. It's kind of like
Yeah.
you just seem like just so unrealistic. And I think that especially with comedy, it's quite interesting, because the things that you're saying is that are things that are new, not new, but I heard about it before. You're not the only person who says that, but because I've started comedy as the pandemic was kind of
Mm.
like wrapping up, I've seen things just as they are now, and I hear the stories about how things used to
Yeah.
be. But I kind of I still, yeah, I agree. I feel like it's really weird. It feels like everything is getting almost like everything is getting repurposed, almost like
Yeah.
everything gets it's made in a different way.
Uh, I'm not going to pretend things were like amazing pre-pandemic, but I think that to be quite honest with you, the key thing is that basically everything that's happening to us is happening to everyone else. And the big key thing
Yeah,
is honestly that people just can't afford to be fucking going out all the time. So it's just much
true.
harder to. I think people since the pandemic are much choosier about their how they spend their evenings, and
Yeah,
that means that the middle tier of gigs has been effectively killed by it. Like there are a few and they're good, but and also uh loads and loads and loads and loads and loads, thousands of people. And I'm not saying I'm not welcoming to all you lot who've joined, but like I'm not saying that because I would be But what I'm saying is that for some reason, like tens of thousands of people, it seems, sat in the pandemic with time to think, in their flats, and they're like, you know what, we're gonna become stand-up comedians. So many people started, like so many people, and it's insane. Like, and I'm again like, whatever, man, you've got to be better than the people to get the
yeah.
gigs. But I think that it's weird that so many people started at the exact same time as um there were fewer genuine performing opportunities, and but not just open mics that fucking like your mates run and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, like genuine.
Yeah, yeah.
There were significantly more what I would see as like real performing
For me,
opportunities in
yeah.
front of like proper audiences and stuff in London, and yet there were fewer of us. And this happened before. Like people will like older comics will tell you that this happened in the last financial crash. Like millennials, there's
Yeah.
a whole wave. There's a competition called the not the newest or whatever, the old whatever. It's
Not so new
not
comedian
so
of the year.
new, right? And I think the official way of being, you have to have been going for longer than 5 years, and you have to be over the age of 35, right? And I think he's going to have to change that rule and move it up to like 40. And the way I know that is because you're about to see the first wave of the millennial stand-ups, and there's thousands of us, like thousands. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
it's just because I don't know. I think what it is that I mean, this is just conjecture, but I think it's because everything kind of sucks and everything got taken away from you, and like it seems that back in the day in the 90s, whatever, people had like day jobs, and people were like, man, that's a dream, man. You gotta, but and the day job was kind of shit, but it was there. I think for like people who come through these turbulent periods of time, you realize that the day job kind of not only does it suck, but it's also not stable either.
Yeah.
So whereas it's not a choice between like being steady and stable and shooting for the moon. It's we're all on a fucking rocking insane ship that's throwing people off. We're just going through a stormy sea. We're just getting hurled off into the sea constantly. It's like, well, you might as well just try
Right.
doing something wild. You know, it's all gonna suck. So you might as well just do something you enjoy.
You know, that's interesting because my theory about it, which it's something that I think I hear sometimes when people are like, oh, you know, comedy is therapy, and it's something that I disagree with
I don't think it's therapy
completely
at all. I've never
because
been more mentally unwell.
but also no, I just feel like, you know,
Yeah.
therapy is therapy and
Yeah.
comedy is comedy. Like it, obviously, if say because I'd like to think you know, I'm a storyteller,
Yeah.
but I still have like the main idea is not to like talk through, you know, the trauma that I've been
Yeah.
exposed to. It's more about, okay, how do I make this funny, and that's the main point about it. While I kind of feel like the reason why at least like this pick up through the lockdown, I think this is why, because like loads of people thought, oh, you know what's going to be something very therapeutic, I'm just
Mm.
gonna, you know, trauma dump, you know, all everything that's happened to me in front of some strangers.
Mm.
And then I don't know, it's strange because I also see like as many people as I started comedy with,
Yeah.
probably like half of them don't do it now anymore. So
Yeah.
you know, I think is again, I personally think it's just kind of like a wave sort of thing where, you know, it's
Yeah.
starting and then it settles. But then also, yeah, like look, although I am a huge I'd like to think again, I am a mental health advocate, and I appreciate that, you know, people need platforms, but I also don't think that a comedy, whether it's a comedy club, whether it's just a stage, whether it's a
Yeah.
crate of beer turned upside down and you step on it to use as a stage, it's not.
It's fucking not. It's not healthy at all.
Yeah,
It's
and
not. It's not. And I don't think it's healthy for a whole load of reasons. I think it's incredibly mentally unhealthy. It's just my favorite thing in the world, right? But I also think that so I think a few things about it. I think that firstly, yeah, I've heard that line. I've heard comedians say it on stage. They're like, well, I'm just doing this for free therapy. I'm like, number one, this is not free. You plow thousands and thousands of pounds into this horrible fiscal black hole to do this. You can get therapy for free on the National Health Service, my friend. Like, it's hard to get. You'll wait, but you'll get it eventually. You
yeah,
know
but it's
what I mean?
always
Like, if it's
good
that-
gigs, you know.
Yeah. That's it, right? You put thousands into this shit. If you fucking paid a therapist, what's a therapy session? What, £70 for a private therapy session? It's like 70 quid for a fucking hour, I think, which is pretty
Yeah.
expensive. But like, if you did that twice a month, so once every 2 weeks, so a counselor once every 2 weeks, you definitely spend more than 140 quid on comedy a month.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Getting to gigs,
Yeah.
going back, having a drink, a meat or whatever. Yeah.
Definitely. Anyway, but also, I think artistically, I don't think it is, because everything in comedy serves the laugh. I had this show last year in the Edinburgh Fringe and at the end of it, I told a pretty miserable story about how I was kind of suicidal for a bit, or like not like just thoughts, you know.
Yeah, fair.
And I found it. I did the show. And I'll tell you what, I found it really deeply unsatisfying to even admit that in front of an audience, for any other reason than it. I knew that I was doing it just to get a fucking laugh, you know. I didn't think I wasn't getting anything out of saying it either. It wasn't like I didn't feel like I needed to. It was just there, and I was like, and like, what even was I trying to get out of it? Like, people go, oh man, what a crazy, you know, it's not. I don't think it's everything in comedy you're doing, if you're doing it right, honestly, unless you're doing a storytelling show or you're trying to make a show about a point or you're trying to create, and comedy is merely the kind of, you know, like Nanette, right? That where comedy was like the framing device with which she could use to tell her story.
Right. Right.
I just don't think it's a satisfying way, because ultimately, if I was telling this deeply personal story and it's not getting laughs, I'll cut it. You know?
Yeah.
It's not. It's all about serving the. I'm not. I want to entertain you. I don't want to.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not here to express anything dark from my soul in comedy. I'm really not. I'm here to, especially because growing up, like, all the stuff I like is silly, you know. And if it's if it's art, like, for example, I think that one of my favorite sitcoms of all time is Peep Show. I think the first 4 series are genuine works of art, and it's sort of scraping of our psyche, right? But I think that kind of happens tangentially. You know, I think it's there. I think they wrote it because it's fucking hilarious. You know, I don't I don't think that, and I think that comedians some comedians are good at exploring the human condition, right? And like I enjoy like play, and I enjoy that kind of stuff too. And I'm trying to, as I get older, I try and write more of it. Like I've got this bit that like goes well or badly depending on the crowd, where I talk about the fucking like there must be a Make a Wish Foundation for like evil children. They can't, come on, they can't all be good. You know what I mean? They can't all want Disney loads. Like some of them want revenge, right? And there should be a place that like there should be a place to serve those people. And I enjoy humor about that kind of thing. Not, I think that that's going to make me sound a bit fucking Ricky Gervais. But that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm trying to, I enjoy humor that's a bit about like the way that you think about things.
Yeah.
You know, like yeah, I enjoy that side of things, but I don't think that performing it, or I think maybe watching it, but I'm too might be helpful for some people. Maybe some people watch like, you know, Anthony Jeselnik or fucking someone and feel that it's nice to have their thoughts like confirmed, you know, by an expert, by maybe like an expert storyteller that they relate to it and they go, oh, fuck, it's not just me, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't think the act of creating it is therapeutic.
For sure. Yeah. And you know, because I also think about the Daniel Schloss's two special, Lost, I think, and the Puzzle. You know, it has like two bits and they put them together. That was amazing, and that was again quite powerful. But I also feel like my theory about it, or like my view on this, is that look, I'm a very opinionated person, you know, but ultimately I feel like I agree with something that you said before about like how, you know, you're there to entertain people. Like when I go to a comedy show, I go there I don't go there to spread the message. I go there to like try and entertain comedians. Then if I can basically do my again, look, for example, like with the podcast, that's where I try to, you know, talk about this like other side of like my life, you know, because I agree that ultimately I feel like when people sign up for a comedy show, they kind of like they want a comedy show, like, you know, it sounds maybe for some people like, oh, it's but I feel like it's liberating, you know, because again you have this like awfulness happening, and then now I just want to take a break.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what, right, as well, like I think that we've imported this kind of philosopher king view of comedians from fucking from America, right? Because when I like a lot of younger comedians who are like, you know, early 20s, I guess they probably, and I, you know, I can't speak for all of them, but I guess they mostly got into comedy from watching it on YouTube, right? Instead of watching stuff.
Yeah.
And I reckon they probably watch US comics mostly, at least initially. And I say this because when I was growing up, the big comedians were just whoever was on Mock the Week or like Never Mind the Buzzcocks on TV.
Yeah.
You know, we all have fucking 4 channels and we just watch them, right? And then prior to that, the UK comic traditional is from like working men's clubs and then like student, and then they're like more working class people. I guess would have like working men's clubs, and people would just come like. And yeah, those are fucking boozy affairs. There'd be like drag shows, fashion shows, fucking raffles, and then comedian come on. And just half their jokes would be like just literally like joke book jokes, and half of them would just be like proper racist, like Benidorm stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, but like, oh, I never. Obviously, I didn't. This is before my time, but like. Bring it back, no. But no, like this is before my time. You sometimes do these gigs to like old crowds, like older crowds, and they're you know, people in their like 60s plus in like little towns in England, and you show up, and I was like, what I understand comedy is and what you understand is so crazily different that it's like it's not like, you're not. Sometimes I'll say a sentence, they don't even recognize that I've said a joke. It's not that they don't like the joke; they literally don't even recognize that what I've constructed. Whereas like the rhythm is different to anything, and they want that. They want like Jim Davidson, and I'm not. You know, and I always feel like who, but like Booker, why did you think that they would want this? You know what I mean? Like, because I don't even feel like I'm not even judging them for wanting it. I mean, I am a bit, but I'm not really, because I just like, why, is what they want, is what they like. Let them. Anyway, and then there were like students who would do like, like the ultimate one is Monty Python, who were like a student review sketch group from like Oxford, Cambridge, and they made these mad sketch shows. But I guess what I'm saying is almost all of our stand-up was way sillier. Like the big stand-ups were like Bill Bailey, guys like that who were just like way sillier, like Lee Evans doing his fucking like and like even like McIntyre's Roadshow was on, and like McIntyre is very mainstream, I guess, but he's a silly guy. He does like, it's like, oh, get on the tube. Oh, you think about getting, you know what I mean? He's just that kind of and then like if you were smarter, you probably like, if you were at like university, you probably like Stuart Lee. But again, Stuart Lee is a silly guy. Like his comedy isn't really, if you watch like little clips of it, I think you get these weird ones where people try and do his clip about a liberal thing. And it's like, but his actual shows are about stupid stuff. Like, he does like he did this bit where he'd like pretended to be someone eating crisps for ages once. And he'll talk at length about how he thinks the word crisps and wool are just funny words and things like that. And I think that, I guess what I'm saying is I think that this kind of view of stand-up is like comedy, and that you can hear Americans say it with like reverence, like a comedy stage, like it's this kind of almost it's like semi-religious, where they have this like, when you're on a comedy stage, man, I just feel like I can create anything can happen within this space. I say space, within this space that we create. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Just get on and tell your knock jokes and fuck off, man. Like, I just, like, I think we have a more, I think more and more people's view of comedy is this sort of weirdly anti-establishment, like therapeutic thing. Whereas I think we've imported that because they've always been like that. Americans are just very extra. I think that's my thoughts about. I think they are. God love them. They're good people, but they're just very extra. Do you know what I mean? Everything they do is important and deliberate. And I'm just, whereas we're just fucking little. We're just weird little
by accident.
Weird little men. Just I just I don't think we're Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is I think that this view of it as maybe being a bit more therapeutic than it actually is something we might have imported from that kind of. There's a lot of discourse, I remember the noughties are a lot of, all those the late noughties, the big US comics that came out that got big were like Louis C.K. And people started, we were watching them because that was when YouTube first, showed up, right?
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I guess that. Yeah, I think that younger comics probably watch a lot more stuff like that, maybe. And they maybe I don't really, I mean, I don't know what they're watching even. What are you watching, young people? And you're fucking probably just watching probably not watching anything. They're probably just watching fucking when your mate's got a different color hair videos, on TikTok. Don't watch that. Watch this podcast and bring us riches.
Yes, that's it. But look, we've recorded for a while. We've got other things to do.
Yeah.
So I hope you enjoyed listening to this. Jacob, thank you so much for doing it.
Thanks for having me. That was really fun.
Where do before we wrap it up, where do people find your work? Mostly, I know we talked about how it's hard to stay like up to date, I guess, but still.
Oh, yeah. So you can find me on J Hatton Comedy on Instagram. Also Facebook, but I don't really use that. Instagram is the big one. I also have TikTok, and I will be... I have a club, which is every 2 weeks. I host the Angelic in Islington at a club called What's So Funny? What? What's So Funny? You can find us on What's So Funny Tuesdays on Instagram again. And I would say come to that. I put on great lineups. I've always been a good booker, so I put on good lineups. And I'm an electric stand-up host. So
and what's the name of your podcast? Is it still out?
Oh, it was cool. So actually, no, good. What a good time to bring it up because I'm recording a second series. The podcast is called Desert Island Dictator, and it will be out in about 4 weeks from the day of recording this. So whenever you put it up, I'll put a pin in it. It's called Desert Island Dictator, and it's Do you know Desert Island Discs, the Radio 4 show?
No.
Well, then I'm going to have to explain that, and then I'll be able to. This is like one of those. This is like, when you tell a joke with a reference that you think everyone's got, and then you sit there and you just go, "Oh, great! I'm going to have to tell you. Let me tell you about about Ireland." And anyway, so Desert Island Disc is a Radio 4 show, and basically they interview like a celebrity every week, and they say the conceit is you're sent to a desert island, and you only have I think it's one book and then three pieces of music, and you have to talk about if you were just like marooned on this desert island,
Right.
what three pieces of music would you
Pick
to just have as the I guess music that you could never stop listening to, just never get tired of, and they kind of talk through it. And so my podcast is called Desert Island Dictator, and the conceit is that you were marooned on this island. Now, 5 years later, you rule it with an iron fist. And what laws would you? What it's about? I guess it's about what's your utopia, man? And we kind of talk a bit about like what rules and laws you'd bring in and how you'd interact with it. What's your perfect nation? And I'm going to interview like a few comics, hopefully get some good guests for it, and then just keep it running.
Nice. Well, check it out, people.
Yeah.
And if you might think, oh, I thought about that as well. We'll make it. You should make a GTA about you. Basically, I think what you should do as a dictator, only allow cities to exist if there is a GTA version of it.
That I tell you what, that's a good.
Otherwise,
good
what's the point?
Theft Auto for each.
Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
Anyway, Jacob, thank you so much, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, did you enjoy it? I hope you did, because I definitely enjoyed recording. And folks, that's everything from me. I hope we'll stay in touch, and I hope you look after yourselves. And from me, Pickle and Sarma, which, by the way, Sarma, it's wildly distracting right now, as she's asking for pets while sitting on the audio interface as I'm recording. But yes, from me, Pickle and Sarma, stay skillful, and yeah, I'll talk next week.